What's up, Cerebral NFL fans? My name is Steven Hyder. This is Gate City Sports Media Company. And today's topic, look, we're gonna talk a little bit about the safety position, the importance to this defense, assumed defense, because we really don't know what's going to go on here from a defensive coordinator and scheme standpoint right now at this moment, but presumed what we believe, things to be, guys, if you will. But before I begin, I'm sorry that this is a little later than I normally go live. Delayed schedule with my niece. They had a 2-hour delay, guys. So I kind of had to work around that. If you hear some noise in the background, my in-laws are getting ready to go fix their military ID situation. So might hear a little bit of noise that you're not used to, guys. All right, y'all. Today's topic. So a lot of noise being made about the safety position. And I think it's for good reason, right? Because I do think that there's an element of truth that we need safety play here in the Philadelphia Eagles going into the long-term future, right? Because although I do think people are misunderstanding how well some of these guys play, like Rodney McLeod and Anthony Harris late in the season, I will say Rodney McLeod took a long time to come back from the ACL. He's over 30. It's the second ACL. There's concerns, right? Anthony Harris, probably a little better than people think, but to be honest, a little bit of a liability in man coverage. Very good in zone defense. But here we are. We're sitting here in a situation where we have Kayvon Wallace, a former fourth-round pick from a couple of years ago that we have no idea about. We just have not seen the young man play enough to have any kind of confidence in what he is or is not, right? And then we have Marcus Epps, who is highly underrated. When you look at Marcus Epps' numbers, let me put this into perspective, guys, how underrated Marcus Epps is as a player right now. In man coverage, he's the 19th ranked safety in the league. He has a 71.1 man coverage grade. This is coming from PFF. I'm using this as a impartial viewpoint here, guys. Not that I believe PFF is the end-all, be-all to the conversation. I just feel like instead of me telling you it, it's more helpful to have an impartial viewpoint here. So on the season, they had him in 65 snaps in man coverage. Quarterbacks went 5 of 7 against that for 64 yards. But he forced 2 incompletions, which resulted in 2 pass breakups. Gave up 1 touchdown, didn't come away with the interception, but nonetheless, very highly rated here. 19th in the league. In zone coverage, he ranked 36 among all safeties. Quarterbacks, his grade overall was a 66.7 in zone coverage. He was 9 of 11 for 94 yards. He didn't force any incompletions, so he didn't get any pass breakups. He ended up getting a touchdown, didn't give up any touchdowns. Got an interception, didn't give up any touchdowns. Let me say that clearly, guys. So 19th in the league in terms of man coverage, 36 in zone. He was our highest graded safety in man coverage, or second highest graded safety in zone coverage. Marcus Epps is underrated, guys. He's definitely a guy I'm interested in keeping on the field, and I wouldn't mind seeing him having an expanded role, to be quite honest. I definitely think he can play the role of the free, the guy that can be your deep safety that robes. I think he's athletic enough. I think he breaks on the football enough. I think he's tough-minded. I think Marcus Epps has grown a lot over 2 or 3 years. With that said, as I'm looking at the rest of this, you got Rodney McLeod, who's, like I said, 2 ACLs, over 30. It's tough, man. 78th in man coverage. Okay. 54.3 man coverage grade. He had 104 snaps, of which they're grading guys on the season in man coverage. Quarterbacks only went 1 of 3 against him. There's only 3 attempts. And I think that says something, right? That if you're in 104 snaps in man coverage and they only try 3 times against you, maybe they're being a little kind of crazy here on this grading system. 1 catch, 19 yards. He didn't force any incompletions, didn't force any pass breakups. Obviously, there was only 3 opportunities. He came away with 2 interceptions. 2 interceptions, guys. So 3 attempts, 1 completion, picked off the other 2 attempts that came his way in man coverage. I do feel like maybe Rodney McLeod's grading's a little suspect to me. No touchdowns. In zone coverage, 51st in the league. 61.6 zone coverage grade. 284 snaps. Obviously, we're very much a heavy, zone coverage system. 11 of 18, so 11 completions against 18 attempts on the season, 143 yards given up, 2 forced incompletions, 2 pass breakups, no interceptions, only 1 touchdown given up in coverage in zone. 61.6 rating, like I said, was 51st in the league in terms of safeties. Anthony Harris, so Ant Harris. In zone coverage, the 88th graded guy, so our lowest graded guy amongst these 3 in zone coverage. He had a 49.8, man coverage grade, I should say man. A 49.8 man coverage grade. 9 completions against 13 attempts for 82 yards, 1 forced incompletion, 1 pass breakup, obviously. Gave up 1 touchdown in man coverage, 0 interceptions. I will I will state this outright, guys. Be a little careful in terms of who they credit for touchdowns when it comes to corners and safeties, because you really have to understand the concept that was being run from a coverage standpoint to assign fault and blame in zone coverage in particular. Man coverage, a little bit easier to define that, right? Zone coverage is far more difficult to define those things. And sometimes when you look at zone coverage grades, there could be just these guys don't realize what scheme was being run, what the coverage shell was, and whose responsibility was. Zone coverage. 30th overall. He was the highest graded. Harris was our highest graded zone coverage player. 67.8 grade. 324 snaps, so a ton of snaps in zone coverage. He played more snaps than anybody in zone coverage on the Eagles. 15 to 24. Quarterbacks completed 15 balls against 24 attempts. 126 yards. He forced one incompletion with one pass breakup. He took the ball away once, one interception coming out of zone. No touchdowns given up. The one thing you can say that's great about Epps, McLeod, and Harris is each of them only gave up one touchdown on the season. That's been credited. Like I said, zone coverage, more difficult story here, guys, to be quite honest. With that said, I mean, look, the numbers aren't great in zone. McLeod and Harris's numbers, in man. The numbers aren't great in man. McLeod and Harris's numbers in man coverage are not good. We don't play a ton of man with Gannon's system. Who knows if a new coordinator comes in here, how much man we're going to play. Down the stretch, I will say Gannon was far more likely to play man with his corners. But now we come to this question. I think we all know you have to upgrade here. You have to upgrade here. But where's the upgrade, right? It's easy to say upgrade. Where's the upgrade? You know, you got to have names in mind or else what are you talking about, right? I'm going to start off by saying I'm not against bringing back one of these veterans, whether it's Rodney McLeod, whether it's Anthony Harris. If you just sign one of those back and you go in the draft to go get another guy to pair long-term with Epps and kind of keep digging there, no problem with that. I have absolutely no problem. I'm a little off-put to their man coverage grades in terms of McLeod, in terms of Harris, just because that one's a little bit more open and shut. But I will say McLeod probably got done a little dirty in his man coverage grade. I mean, the dude only gave up one completion on 3 attempts, and he took the ball away twice on those other 2. How that's a 54.3 grading makes no sense to me. But I'm okay bringing one of those dudes back. However, the question could be is why not go into free agency and find yourself someone who's young? Find you someone who's a little younger than these two, maybe gives you 3 or 4 years possibly, and do you pay up or don't you pay up? There are 4 guys in particular when I went through everything that I came up with in terms of a list of guys that made somewhat some sense here from free agency standpoint. Number 1 was Justin Reed, safety from Houston. Number 2 was Marcus Williams, safety from New Orleans. That one's going to cost if we go for him. Number 3 was Marcus May, safety, New York Jets. Probably a little overvalued, a little overrated, but I will say this, the Jets were better with him than without him, that's for sure. Number 4, Terrell Edmonds, safety, Pittsburgh. So the first one I'm going to talk about, because this is the person I think deserves the most attention because I think they're the best player on this list, which is Marcus Williams, safety, New Orleans. I don't know how much the Eagles are going to invest here in safety, guys. I'm not predicting they're going to make any of these signings. I'm just throwing the names out there and telling you what the cost is from the names that we know. There's always these guys that they might have had scouted highly in the draft that haven't had a ton of opportunities with their current team that may get opportunities in Philly. I can't predict those. There's no way to predict those. But let's talk Marcus Williams, all right? 6'1", 195-pound, 25-year-old safety out of New Orleans. Mediocre athlete, 4'5", 6', 40 kind of time, 1.61, 10-yard split. He's not the fastest guy off the line of scrimmage. No doubt about it. But to me, show me your grades. Why does that matter, right? I want someone who's a clear upgrade. Here's a clear upgrade to me. 77.2 man coverage grading. That's better than anybody on this football team. All right. 236 snaps in man coverage. This guy can play man coverage. All right. 4 completions, 22 yards is all he gave up on the season. 1 forced incompletion, 1 pass breakup in man coverage. In zone coverage, 70.8 zone coverage grade. Better than what we got right now, guys. 385 snaps. He's not a stranger to playing zone. He's played some man. He's played some zone. 3 completions for 83 yards. Now, I will say this. He didn't give up a ton of completions. But when you only give up 3 completions and they're for 83 yards, do the math, guys. You know what I'm saying? We're talking almost 30 yards a clip here. We're talking between 25 and 30 yards a clip is what you're giving up on those completions. He forced 5 incompletions, though, in zone coverage. 4 pass breaks on those 5 forced incompletions. 0 interceptions. All right. I think the knock you can say here is the coverage is solid, but he's not taking the ball away, right? So you're not getting that aspect of maybe changing your fortunes by getting the football. But the coverage grades are pretty good. 77.2 in man, 70.8 in zone, by far the best graded guy that's available on this list. He's going to cost you. I got a feeling Marcus Williams is going to get paid. The number 2 guy I'll talk about is all potential upside, not necessarily in the production, guys. All right, so stick with me. This is more projection than it is production. And that's Justin Reed from Houston. Athletic as athletic gets, right? Where Marcus Williams maybe lacks the athleticism, Justin Reed does not. Justin Reed, 4.40. That's fast for a safety, guys. 1.52, 10-yard split. Pretty good for a corner. That means he's got some good foot speed, no doubt about it, right? Another guy that's around 25 years old. Young guy, right? Coverage grades aren't nowhere near like eye-popping like Marcus Williams, guys. This is projection. This is not production. Man coverage grade, 49.2 on 95 snaps. Played about what our guys played in man coverage. Gave up 2 receptions, though, for 6 yards. So that 49.2 grading they gave him, at the end of the day, it was only 2 receptions for 6 yards. You can live with that, right? And zone coverage, 54.7 zone coverage grade. It's not exactly world-beating. 295 snaps in zone coverage. Gave up 8 catches for 196 yards. I will say, in zone, Justin Reed got taken advantage of a little bit. Almost 200 yards is a lot. 2 forced incompletions, 2 interceptions. He will take the ball away. Justin Reed has the athletic ability to get you turnovers. He's a projection, not production. I'll say it again, guys. It's all projection, not production, but sometimes you got to find the guy that you can maybe grow into your own, right? This is a guy that maybe you can grow into your own, assuming Houston lets him go. The third guy we'll talk about is Marcus May. I'm not as high on Marcus May, but I'm just looking in terms of like, okay, if crap hits the fan and you're sitting there with Kayvon Wallace and Marcus Epps and your other 2 guys you can't get back in Philly, these 2 veteran guys, and now you don't know where the Eagles are going to pick in the draft. Like, what do you do? What's your fallback plan? Say we go through the draft and we don't get what we want. What's your fallback plan? All right, Marcus May, not a great coverage graded guy here, guys. 52.9 in man coverage. 65 snaps on the season, so right around pretty much like what Marcus Epps played in man coverage. 7 catches for 123 yards. A little concerning for me. So that Jets defense was pretty bad, guys, in terms of the coverage. 1 forced incompletion, 1 pass breakup, no interceptions in man coverage. It's hard to get interceptions in man coverage, to be fair. That's what makes Rodney McLeod's numbers kind of impressive to me. Zone coverage, 51.6. Played 95 snaps in zone coverage. Obviously, Marcus May, because of the injury, didn't play a ton of snaps in 2021. So, honestly, if you guys want to dig deeper and you got access to PFF's premium stats, go look at his 2020 numbers. Might give you a better idea of what he is. 6 catches, 117 yards. So, he gave up in the little bit of games he's played 100 yards receiving in zone, 100 yards receiving in man. That's kind of concerning. I'm not going to lie. 1 forced incompletion, 1 pass breakup, no interceptions. Didn't walk away with any kind of turnovers. And when he was in coverage, he got picked on a little bit, right? The last guy I'll bring up is I think this is a nice mid-tier guy. Athletic profile for me is not there, but the play is there. I think the numbers precede the athletic ability, if that makes sense. All right, from the athletic perspective here. He ran a 1.58 10-yard split. That's not great, guys. That's not good at all. He ran a 4.47 40. That's okay. That's not, that's not horrible. Like, his get off isn't as good on a 10-yard split, but his overall speed is decent. Terrell Edmonds, safety, Pittsburgh. 6'1", 217 pounds, physical specimen, right? Physical dude. 63.6 man coverage grade, played 194 snaps in man coverage. That's a lot. The only other person who played more in man coverage was Marcus Williams. He gave up 11 catches for 75 yards. 11 catches is a lot of catches. 75 yards is not a lot of yards, to be fair. He didn't force any incompletions. He didn't get any pass breakups. Didn't get any interceptions, but seemed to have decent coverage, right? And man coverage, gave up 11 catches, but shut it down to under 100 yards. What are we talking about? A little over 10 yards a catch here? Not bad, right? For 194 snaps. Zone coverage, 63.4 grading. Not horrible. Respectable. 410 snaps on the season. That's a lot of snaps. He played a lot. 23 catches, 234 yards. This one made me a little suspicious. That's a ton of yards to give up in zone and a ton of catches. 23 for 234 is a shocking number. He forced 4 incompletions. He also had the ball thrown at, gave up 23 catches. So, You know what I mean? 4 pass breakups, and he had an interception here. To me, my list would go probably Marcus Williams if I had the money. Perfect world, I had the money, Marcus Williams. In a world where we don't have that kind of money, we need to play off of potential, Justin Reed. In a world where you miss on those 2 guys, Terrell Edmonds is probably my next up here. In a world where you don't even get Terrell Edmonds, if I miss in the draft, I'm not going up in Marcus May, like trying to go snatch Marcus May early. That's more like if I miss in free agency, I miss in the draft, and this guy is still available in May and June, then I might go to Marcus May just to try to shore things up a little bit. But to be honest with you, if I'm down to the Marcus May, give me Rodney McLeod back. Give me Anthony Harris back. I'll take those 2 guys, to be honest. That's the safety market in terms of free agency. All right. Let me talk about some of the things I saw from a draft perspective. Okay. I finally was able to, I chilled out and I started watching some film on corners and safeties to kind of get away from the quarterbacks for a little bit. Sometimes you just got to move away from the film for a little bit and come back again. So Kyle Hamilton, clearly the best safety in this class from what I saw in the film. Dude's an impact player. We'll see what happens in the league. In terms of college, he was definitely an impact player. I'll be honest with you. Before this, I had Jordan Battle over Jaquan Brisker. After watching a couple games, I kind of like Brisker more. I'm not going to lie. He's really good in coverage. Jaquan Brisker, he's physical, and he's good in coverage. I think he's better than people think. And I know that we all are a little put off when we're dealing with Pennsylvania guys. These guys playing college at like Pitt, playing college at like Penn State. You know what I mean? Like it makes you pump the brakes a little bit on these guys just because we can look at it through rose-colored glasses. Jordan Battle will be the next guy I got on this list, guys. Jordan Battle, Alabama. I think Jaquan Brisker and Jordan Battle, if you're in the second round and you take either one of these guys, I can live with that. Right? The one thing I'll say about Jordan Battle that I was impressed with is watching him from like his freshman tape to like just watching him over a couple of years. Jordan Battle got better every single year, man. He just improved. He got better with every single rep he took. That projects well when you talk about the NFL, right? Like you want to see guys get better every season to project what they might be in the NFL. I do think Jordan Battle has that situation. There are some guys on the list I think are a little confusing, like a Daxton Hill out of Michigan. Is he a slot? Is he a safety? Probably depends upon the team. Good man coverage guy. When I watched his man coverage snaps, he was really good. I thought Daxton Hill was really good in man coverage. Lewis, I don't know if it's Cine or Cine. I don't know how you say his name, guys. The UGA guy. Really good tackler. Physical. If you're a guy that wants to rock your safeties down into the box, I like what Lewis can give you. I thought he was pretty good at UGA. Jalen Catalone, the dude from Arkansas, SEC guy. Probably a little underrated, right? He really popped on the film to me. I liked him a lot. I don't know where he's going to go, but this is a guy that if I'm picking in the back end of the second round, I'm considering it. If he's still there in the third round, I'm probably picking him, to be honest. He pops on film to me. He will absolutely hit somebody. Absolutely will hit somebody. He's not the tallest dude. He's only like 5'10". He's like 5'10", 200 pounds, but man, he plays a lot bigger. He plays a lot bigger on the film. Then you get guys like Brad Hawkins out of Michigan, physical specimen, 6'1", 220-ish. He's a box safety. If you're looking for that box safety around the third or fourth round, it's hard to grade these guys. Listen to me, guys. I don't want to sit out here and put out too many grades on guys because a lot of times when it comes to guys past the first like 50 picks, a lot of politics come into play. There's a crap ton of politics that come into play in terms of where these guys get drafted. So don't take any of this for granted right now. You already know we haven't even gotten to the Senior Bowl and pro days and the combine, let alone agents finagling some of these draft experts into pushing their dudes up. So just be mindful of that stuff, guys. There's no way of knowing this stuff yet. Brad Hawkins, definitely, like I looked at it and seeing like, okay, this dude plays physically. He's a very physical football player. The one I'll give you my notes on him. I simply wrote down 2 words about Kirby Joseph from Illinois. Be careful. Be careful. He didn't play a lot for 3 freaking years and then all of a sudden emerged for a huge 2021 season. I put in big letters. Be careful. Be careful of this young man. He might be good. You might reach. You might reach for a guy like Kirby Joseph. Got to be careful where you value this guy. I'm not saying you avoid picking someone like Kirby Joseph, but you got to be real careful about where you're valuing him based upon one season of film, right? So that was the only really one I have. The only one I haven't got around to, and I already know you guys are going to ask me. Smoke Monday. I haven't had a chance to go deep into his film. He was an underclassman that kind of declared, so it's a little hard to track those guys because I didn't know when he was going to declare, so I didn't have him queued into the film until afterwards. But I'll give you my opinions on Smoke Monday and a later time, guys, when I get a chance to actually watch his film. The little bit I saw from him is a good football player. Where I rate him in terms of these other guys, I don't know. Hard to say, man. But let's get to some comments, guys. I appreciate you listening to a 20-minute rant here. Thank you. Let's get to some comments, everybody. What's up, Michael? How you doing, buddy? He said, here we go. Now I can have my morning cigar. Laugh out loud. Appreciate you tuning in, Michael. Appreciate it, buddy. What's up, Chris? How you doing, man? He said, who you think will get cut from the Eagles this year? Surprise cuts? I don't know if there's going to be a surprise cut, but Brandon Brooks is probably something's going to happen with that contract, whether he's cut with a June 1st designation or they restructure the contract again to push some of that. They're not going to pay him what he's due for 2022. In terms of surprise trades, Dillard might get traded. Sayamalu might get traded. I look to the offensive line and see what they do there. A lot of bodies, a lot of good players on the offensive line. You got to see what happens. Michael said, Epps is that dude. I'm very high on that guy. If we get another good young coverage safety, we could have a good tandem. I agree. I think he was a lot better than what I thought, Michael. I was not high on Epps. He shut me up. Epps is one of the few guys where I feel like I kind of missed it a little bit there. Like I knew he was athletic, but I just didn't see the instincts. And then this year, it just turned on for him. What's up, NFC East Beast? He said, good morning, Gates Gorillas. Came home yesterday to snow. We never have snow, especially 6 inches. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get 6 inches out this way, NFC East Beast. We got I'm going to say it was like Friday or Saturday, we got like a few more inches. Last weekend, we got snowed pretty good out this way in Western North Carolina, but just a couple inches over this weekend. Nothing crazy. What's up, Azar? He said, I like Epps. Me too, man. Epps is highly underrated for what he did this season. What's up, Lit City? He said, better linebacker play could help our safeties out for sure. Jamal, what's good, man? How you doing? Thank you guys for tuning in this morning. Sorry I was a little late, guys. There's just a lot of chaos going on. Superhero 18 said, I think what the Eagles need is a Jenkins-type prospect veteran, someone who can diagnose offenses and help cover that backside. But even Jenkins, like when I look at Malcolm Jenkins, the Eagles took a big risk on Malcolm Jenkins, Superhero 18. He was not a very well-graded guy coming out. He was, there's complexity. He was a converted corner into safety, and he hadn't had that many years playing safety when he hit free agency to kind of to give him fair grades. But he was a lot better in Philly. It kind of came together in Philly for him. What's up, Marky Mackey? I was getting to Dax Hill. I don't know, the problem I have with Daxton Hill is I don't know if teams are going to play him at nickel or if they're going to play him at safety. S1X, what's up, buddy? Or 6 said, trade Miles Sanders for Calvin Ridley, I think is the move. We can draft that running back from Michigan State. NFC East B said, big need for skill positions, especially at quarterback. These playoffs, I saw 13 other quarterbacks much, much better than we have. True, but I also seen guys that have been in the league for over 10 years struggle too. To be fair, NFC East Beast. I saw Tom Brady miss some reads, if I'm going to be honest. Marky Mack said, is Jimmy G or Tannehill really that much better than Hurts? No. Ryan Tannehill, I think, is. Jimmy G is ahead of him right now, but not for the ceiling, I wouldn't say, Marky. Sam Shady Sports, what's up, buddy? He said, I would take Marcus Williams. I'm a huge fan of his. I doubt the Saints will be able to resign him. Yeah, that's my instinct too, is that they're not going to be able to get the money together to actually keep or retain him unless he gives them like a crazy home team discount here. With that said, it's a matter of how much money will the Eagles throw, because I think he's going to be a hot commodity around the league. I think there's going to definitely be some interest in him. What's up, Miguel? How you doing, buddy? He said pass rusher, a linebacker, and maybe a receiver. What's up, Bobby Murphy? He said, what about Jesse Bates or Tyrann Mathieu? Look, the Honey Badger would be awesome to have here, Bobby, but I don't know that the Eagles can afford him. to be honest. I think his contract's going to go over 14 million. The average, value, I think it's going to be over 14 million. I think if you sign someone like the Honey Badger, like Matthew, like what you're going to end up happening here is there's no way you're getting. It's going to affect what you can do with the wide receivers from the veteran market. It's going to affect what you can do with the rest of your roster. To be honest, I felt his value was going to be too high. It's the same reason I feel a little skeptical about projecting Williams to come to the Eagles, because I think his average value in terms of what he's going to get is going to be a lot higher than people think. Pope Platinum Beat, sorry, my guy, said all defense and more defense. And then when you get done, take a few more defensive players, right? So I saw a few mocks of Hamilton dropping to 15. It's always possible. It's always possible. I don't know if that's true or not, but, hard to say this far out of the draft, to be honest. What do you mean by politics? That's a curious word. It's really not Superhero 18 if you know what goes on. These so-called draft experts, I can't say their name. I'm not trying to get litigation thrown up against me, Superhero 18. Let's just say one of the guys that wears glasses that's really popular on television, there was someone who was indicted by the FBI for some pretty serious crimes and connections to things. And Kuiper's just said something I shouldn't have said. Scratch that last, blame my last. That person's connected to him. And one thing I can tell you is that some of these guys get kickbacks and they get things in favor for pushing up some of these guys in the draft classes by bringing more attention to them. Never, ever trust these draft boards. Sometimes this is all about you having a personal connection with an agent and trying to push their guys. That's what I'm trying to tell you. There's a political side to this. What's up, Dante? How you doing, buddy? I see Sauce Gardner falling on some boards. Would you pull the trigger on him or Hamilton if both are available? At 15 and 16, absolutely. I wouldn't even hesitate. That would change the scope of your secondary so much. Absolutely. Without hesitation, MC's Beast, I would. What's up, Richie MC? Say, hey, Gates, why is North Carolina quarterback Sam Howell rising up the mock draft boards? Is he slated to go 10 through 20 range of the first round? Are his reps influencing the mock draft experts? Not yet. I wouldn't trust any of that yet, Richie, until you get to the Senior Bowl. All these dudes, I think, are going to participate at the Senior Bowl. It's going to be a really good Senior Bowl. So the Senior Bowl practices are going to have a lot of things to look at. I will say that the thing about Sam Howell, and mind you, Richie, I'm an NC State guy. That's my arch rival, UNC. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. But what I will say is this. That young man's been involved in football camp since he was a little kid. He was pretty much groomed to play quarterback. There are some things about him that are very fundamentally sound, and there's some things about him where there's got to be some growth from a young quarterback. But if you're looking for a guy that you feel is going to be kind of pro-ready, but you just don't know what the ceiling will be, that's your guy, right? You know what the floor is going to be, and you feel comfortable with the floor. You may struggle with defining his ceiling. That's why he would be there. I don't think he's going to go between the 10 and 20 range, but who knows, Richie? I mean, if he has a good enough Senior Bowl, has a really good pro day, it's possible. Eagle Slayer 95 said hiring Fangio and drafting pass rushers and a safety could be scary. I like Vic Fangio. He's very, very smart. He's a very, very good defensive mind. Cree said, good morning. Sorry I'm late. Ain't no big deal. I was late myself, man. What's up, Kivo? Said, dude out of Auburn, smoke be striking. You want to smoke Monday? Why do people keep bringing up Ridley? He missed way too many games that had nothing to do with being injured. Kivo, we got to chill with that, man. They're human beings, dude. They're human beings, and so did Lane Johnson. I'm telling you, I ran film. I sat down this weekend with Jalen and with Caleb, two former collegiate offensive linemen. The one dude that was dependable in that game was Lane Johnson, and he missed time for that same exact reason. My problem with Ridley is I don't know if you can keep him here long term. In terms of the player, this is a layup. Calvin Ridley's a stud out there at wide receiver. We'd be crazy to pass up that opportunity if it were presented for the right cost. Everything has a cost. I don't know what the cost is, and there are points where you got to pull back from the cost. But in terms of the player, I don't care that he had some, issues, with anxiety. Like a lot of dudes do. It's more acceptable now to talk about it. I ran the PFF Draft Simulator on auto, and yikes, it keeps saying that the Eagles will select him. How with one of their 3 first-round picks? Any explanation that you can think of? It's a simulator, Richie. I mean, it's a simulator. It's because they're projecting the Eagles to have a need at quarterback. So it's taking what they deem to be the best player available at the position. But you can set the simulators to do different things. What's up, Shonuff? How you doing, man? Lit City said, what's your take on our linebacker play from the season? Got better when we had Edwards in there and we had Davion Taylor in there. Little concerned with Davion Taylor's injury history. Thought he played with great instincts once he got into the game this year. He looked lost in 2020. Davion Taylor looked like a failure to me in 2020. 2021, he looked like a guy like, you hang on to this dude. I just hope he can stay healthy. Because if I can get a guy like, look, give me Nakobe Dean, give me Devin Lloyd. There's a ton of these linebackers. Even there's guys in the second round that we could discuss that add value at linebacker. Give me someone that gives me confident play to put alongside of those two guys with Alex Singleton being your fourth. I think you got a different conversation about your linebackers. We just need Davion to stay on the field and use that athleticism and that instinct that he showed. He played very, very well instinctually. It was a drastic difference in 2021 compared to what he put on film for 2020. You mentioned Dillard getting traded. That's who I would use to get Ridley. The Falcons need an O-line bad. I'd package him with a pick. It's possible because right now the valuation I heard on Dillard was a 3rd-round pick. That's what the Eagles apparently are searching for. It may be easier to pass him off if you're packaging players, and you know what I mean? It might make it a little bit more tolerable for them. I think Jalen Reagor will get traded this year. To who? And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't know. I don't know, Chris. I don't know where the value would be. Not a fan of Brisker on film, but that might be more of a poor Penn State defense in general. I thought his film was actually pretty good, Allie. I'm not going to lie. I came away pretty impressed with his film. What's up, Ted? He said cornerback, linebacker, defensive end, and safety. You can win a lot of games with defense in case Hurts can't win certain games. It's true. Eagles would definitely sign Marcus Williams. That would be their top free agent target, 25 years old with range, and he's a modern 2-shell safety that excels in zone match defenses, perfect fit. H Killer, I don't hate the signing. It's just a matter of like, you know how it goes, man. It's a matter of the money. I can't legitimately project how much money they're going to spend on the position group. It's hard to say, H Killer. I like the player a lot, and certainly is a dude that makes a ton of sense. Just don't know they'll do it. Superhero 18 said, I got you. False noise to drum up draft status, basically. There you go. I accidentally named somebody that I should not have named because some of these dudes, yeah, they're quick to litigate. I think there's something like that in every sports league. To an extent, there definitely is. We're guaranteed to draft 2 D linemen, 1 O lineman, 1 corner, 1 safety, 1 tight end, and 1 linebacker. Book it, bro. I'll write it down for you if you guys want to do like bold predictions. We can make a sheet and just kind of follow who got closest with the bold predictions in terms of the draft. But I'm not far enough in, man, because, the value's got to fit where you got picked. You know what I mean, Kiva? Show enough. What's good, man? He said, my dream draft is Hamilton and Sauce or Hamilton and Lloyd. Bobby Murphy said, yeah, the guy with the glasses is wrong about a lot of draft prospects too. Yeah, exactly. Do you watch the Senior Bowl? If so, is there someone we should pay a look at as a late draft commodity? You got to look at where you can and can't fit, Cree. So the way I would look at it is like this, right? Like You got 3 picks. You may or may not take them. You may move up the board. You may trade back down the board. You may take all 3 picks. Who knows, right? You know you have certain needs on the football team. But the problem is with our pick being the 19th pick, when you get to the 2nd and 3rd round, some of those guys that are going to fall between those rounds, it could be tough to get them. So the Eagles will either have to be aggressive to go get them or not. So look at your board. Look at who you think the Eagles might take. And then from that tree, I would filter by, okay, if we can't get those guys in the 2nd and 3rd round, like you can only get so many guys, right? If you're sitting there, who's the safety in the 4th round that you might be able to get? Who's the safety or the corner or whatever in the 4th and 5th round? Like, who's the running backs? You know what I mean? Like, I would look at those things. What I love to watch the Senior Bowl for is I love to watch the pass pro drills from the running backs. It's one of the better ones you can see. And there's some pretty good drills from the linebacking core, too. That's the Senior Bowl. You got to watch the week of practice. Week of practice is far more useful than the game. The game to me has really no use at all. Seeing some of this quarterback's play in the playoffs really feels like watching a different sport. Since you always compare Hurts to Allen, do you see him having a game like Allen did yesterday? That's hard to project, Natiro. Allen had as good as games I've ever seen someone play and lose. I mean, look, man, it's hard to say. Like, look, if you looked at Josh Allen, let's just talk for a second about Josh Allen, right? This got nothing to do with Jalen Hurts. It's got to do with Josh Allen, guys. Josh Allen's rookie season, 169 and 320, 52.8 completion percent. So 169 completions against 320 attempts, 52.8 completion. 2,000 yards, 2,074 yards, 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, a 49.8 QBR. Second year in the league, 271 and 461. Okay, 58.8% completion rate, 3,089 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But his QBR actually went down, 49.4. Allen struggled to throw into NFL windows early. Allen really struggled with his deep ball, although he had a phenomenal freaking arm. Allen has a ton of talent, though, man. He's got a ton of talent. He's got a really good coach out there in Brian Dable, who, may be back. I thought if they won the Super Bowl, got to the Super Bowl or won it, I thought Brian Dable may have left. Now I feel like there's a possibility Brian Dable stays there in Buffalo with Josh Allen because they feel like there's a lot not left accomplished here. And they're going to have to do a lot of coaching here. Sean McDermott and Brian Dable got their work cut out for them. Ken Dorsey, the quarterback coach. That's a tough way to lose a football game, guys. And what a week of football, man. What a week of playoff football. Every freaking game was good last weekend. Every freaking game was good. Everyone, man. That freaking Kansas City and Buffalo game was as good a game as I've watched. I mean, I haven't seen a game that good in quite some time. I'm not projecting that, Natiro. That's really difficult to project. I don't think we should be looking to say that he's going to turn into Josh Allen or Tom Brady. I mean, look at Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady's 2001 season, mind you, different type of football back then, guys. Corners could basically steal your lunch money and not get penalized. 2001, 264 or 413. 63.9% completion. So completed the ball. 2,800 yards, 2,843 yards, 18 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 86.5 passer rating. Can't do QBR. QBR really wasn't a thing until like 2006, 2007. 2002 comes back the next year. Is 373 is 601, 62% completion rate, 62.1 to be exact. 3,764 yards, 28 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 85.7 passer rating. It's hard to predict that guys are going to turn into Josh Allen or Tom Brady, right? And then you got guys like Lamar Jackson who lit it up if you went statistically. Lamar Jackson, rookie year, guys. 99 of 170, 58.2 completion percentage, 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Had a really low QBR, 42.6, right? 84.5, passer rating. But look at 2019. 265 of 401, 66% completion rate, 3,127 yards, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, an 83 QBR, and 113.3 passer rating. Sometimes these things are misleading. Sometimes they tell you a little bit. It's hard to say. I don't think that we should set the bar to be Josh Allen, guys. That's difficult to achieve. I'm not saying it won't be achieved. I'm saying, that's difficult, man. I think Josh Allen has the kind of athletic ability that you only see once in a very, very long time. What's up, the Bull? He said, yeah, it's finally scouting time. April will be here in 3 seconds. Who you got, Gate? Still putting in work, the Bull. I'm still putting in work in terms of like where I'm going to project guys. I'm not quite to the point yet. I do think that we need to spend time on this defense. But we also need answers on who the heck the defensive coordinator is going to be. Still waiting on that, to be honest. Superhero said, I like his arm strength. I think he can really air out the football, how that is. I think taking a flyer on a guy like that wouldn't be the worst thing, to add to the quarterback room. In the first round, I think it's the wrong thing. I don't think he's a first-round quarterback, Superhero. If that kind of guy is in the second or third round, I think it's different, right? I think it's a different discussion if he's in the second or third round, because then you're doing like what Houston did, right? So where you're taking a guy with a good arm and has all the potential, but, you know, maybe you don't feel good about his mobility in the pocket or some other things, right? Bobby say, Houston bringing Gannon back for a second interview today. Please hire him. We'll see, guys. I don't want to predict anything at this point. I'm kind of shocked you got a second interview, and that it tells you that organizations are clearly high on him. I know you might disagree, Gate City, but I'd get rid of Steichen and sign Ken Dorsey for OC. Just wasn't a big fan of what I saw on the field aside from Hurts struggling in the pocket. Right, but how much is that Steichen though? And I don't think Hurts Hurts struggled in the pocket, but he also progressed, showing off. He made some pretty clear progressions in terms of development here. And you got to remember, Kevin Patullo is the guy who designs the passing game concepts. Kivo said Lane Johnson and Ridley are two totally different players, though, bro. Lane's pedigree and impact is far more greater. Now, if Ridley were more like a Julio, I would be with the move. I don't understand what you're saying here, Kivo. What does that have to do with anything? Anxiety is anxiety. And it's not like Ridley is some unknown prospect here, guys. Like, let's be real. Richie said, when do you think Eagles fans will know if Jonathan Gannon is staying or going? Former teams out of the playoffs, a lot of better qualified coordinators to interview for the Texans. Yeah, but Richie, you got to take it seriously when it's a second interview. You know what I mean? Like, that means that there's a really good possibility he's getting hired. Now, I heard someone who was kind of joking that said, I can't remember who it was, but someone had joked about, like, if they send the private jet, you know you're getting hired. I don't know if they sent a private jet, guys. Shona said, really is a very good player. However, it's not what we need. We need a physical wide receiver. I would disagree to an extent, Shona. I mean, we need a guy that can separate and win versus man press, and Ridley can do that. Is Ridley a 6'3", 220-pound guy? No, but he's also not slight of frame. You know what I mean? My biggest fear showing off with Ridley is affordable at $11 million for the type of player he is this year. But he's going to get paid if he hits free agency. And you got him on a fifth-year option for this year if you trade for him. So you have to convince him to stay in Philly. You got to endear him to the fan base. He's got to be endeared to the city. Stars got to align, and then you got to try to figure out the contract. Now, I will say we got some cap space in 23 to make things work if it's really there, but his contract could really escalate if he has a huge season. Do you think we'll see another Ed Reed? No. Honestly, Dante, I think it's challenging to say that you're going to see Brian Dawkins and Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed and who's the guy that he's played for John Lynch, and these type of guys. Like, it's difficult to project that, to be honest, Dante, because the game has changed. Like, you just can't hit dudes the same way anymore. Like, some of these guys back in the early 2000s into the early parts of the 2010s, man, they would get penalized a lot. There'd be a lot of penalties. What's up, Victor? Who do we draft first? Hard to say, but this team values pass rushers. My gut instinct is they're going to look for a pass rusher. But I don't think that they'll shy away from taking a corner if the right value is on the board at corner. And I think depending on the system you're running, this might be the year we break trend when it comes to linebackers. I'm not saying it'll be a first-round pick, Victor, but I think it's going to be a lot higher than we've taken them of recent. I don't think there's any locks, Glizzy. I don't think there's any locks for the Super Bowl, but oh boy, man, I got to be honest with you. San Francisco has had the Rams number. It might be Kansas City and San Francisco, a repeat of the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I think it's very possible. I like the Alabama and Penn State safeties, but not before 51. To me, if you think they can play NFC East beast, you got to go get them. You know what I mean? Show enough said, I don't think they make Ed Reeds anymore. In fact, I haven't seen players that instinctive in a while in football. Also, just the way that these guys played, like, it's hard to say, man. What's up, Crease? Hey, thanks for the info regarding the Senior Bowl. I will look into it in a different manner. Look at it in a different manner. Yeah, the practices are where you really want to watch, guys. The practices are where is what matters. The rest of it doesn't matter. Hot take, this might be, but Aaron Rodgers, stay away from Philly. Look, my take has always been, Richie's, that we're more than a quarterback away. So giving up multiple picks to go get a guy like 3 first rounders, I don't think is the strategy. Now, I mean, there's people that say, like, what if you could sneak a guy for, Wentz's value? You give him 1 first and a second. It depends on the guy. Like, who's the guy? You know what I mean? Like, you still have to build the roster, right? You got to build the roster. Lone Wolf said that Kansas City versus Buffalo game just told me we need an upgrade at quarterback. I don't think so, Lone Wolf. I don't think that means we need an upgrade at quarterback right yet. I mean, I don't know what he is, Lone Wolf. I mean, it's still too early, but I'm just saying, when I said, you can go back and check in 2020 when we were all ticked off about Wentz not making the top 100. I said, yeah, I didn't agree with that. He should have definitely been a top 100 football player for 2020. But I said they got one thing right. They moved Josh Allen up into the top 100. And that was a smart move. And people were coming after me for that because he wasn't good yet. But the underlying talent was there. What's up, Solo Eagles Dad? He said Allen changed through work, but it also goes with getting Diggs, a dominant wideout. I think it's more than that. I think they got Diggs. In that same year, they got Diggs. Look, they also went and got Gabriel Davis. Yes, I mean, putting targets around you definitely helped. Bobby said Allen won Buffalo that game. Their defense let Kansas City drive down the field in 13 seconds. Yeah, and left Kelsey totally uncovered. That's a tough one. That's a tough one, man, if you're a coaching staff. Hard. It's hard to come back from that, man. I know what you meant in terms of regulation, Bobby. No problem. I saw some supposed late round players I think has a lot of potential. Edge rusher Tyree Johnson out of Texas A&M, running back Tyler Algier. I don't know how to say his name, man. Very strong power back. I know Tyree Johnson. I'm not familiar with the running back your name, and I'll have to take a look at him. Buffalo defense stinks when it matters. I mean, they had the statistics. Well, you got to remember, they were down Tre'Davious White, and that hurts on freestyle, but they were a pretty good third down defense. I just didn't understand. I didn't understand why they did what they did, man. Free agency primary target must be J.C. Jackson for me. What's up, H Killer? He said Nick Sirianni and Wink Martindale is a great tandem. Strong running game with deep shots on offense to go along with an aggressive odd front blitz scheme. We'd have to build towards the scheme, though, H Killer. I like Wink Martindale, but there's a lot of good options at coordinator. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of good options floating around there. Freestyle Yaj said Eagles need to upgrade its defense. Safety and linebackers has to be addressed via draft and free agency, plus get defensive ends too. Yeah, they definitely do. Showing enough said, my bad, Gate. Then I don't like Patullo, whoever it is. I don't like. Here's the thing: is like it's really difficult because they all come up with the scheme, showing up. But Patullo is the passing game coordinator. In terms of things getting open, things do get open. But what I think Patullo has to account for, and we need an explanation about, is Patullo in particular handles the RPOs. Look, We do not have the wide receivers to block. We just don't. We do not. Like, everyone wants to get on Rager, and Rager deserves some crap because, boy, was he bad this year. But in terms of the tunnel screen, that's not really Rager. That's because Smith and Watkins can't block. You get what I'm saying? The reason those guys have success is because Rager can block. So I'm tired of the tunnel screen stuff. It was very obvious. Teams knew what we were doing. They went right to it. They played down on it. Patullo's got to, there's got to be some answers here, man. Like, because early season, the way they tried to structure the RPO games, it was a lot of numbers-based RPO. Like, come on, man. Come on. You gotta give your guy more of a chance than that. But maybe the answer is Patullo gets moved into wide receiver coach. I don't know. That's what he does. I don't believe trading for a wideout makes any sense. Free agency, yes. I think it depends on what the value is in free agency, though, Solo, because you can't predict the price, right? That's your issue, is you don't know the price. If you start getting into dangerous territory on price, trading for a guy might be the better option. Now, that doesn't mean you have to trade for necessarily the tier of guys that we're saying. You don't have to trade for a guy that's clearly going to cost you a first-round pick. There are other ways of accomplishing that goal. But, I think it really has to do with the market, to be honest, and how comfortable they are with paying it. I would say that we know the Eagles had some interest in DJ Shark during the draft back in 2018. We know Mike Williams has familiarity with the coaching staff. I think it's a no-brainer if the price is right that Allen Robinson makes a ton of sense in terms of the fit of what you need. He's a high-quality player, but he's got to stay on the field, to be honest. It's hard to say, man. Texans calling. My phone isn't working. You're funny, bro. That's funny, man. I'm saying it depends on what we have to give up for Ridley. People are really high on him as if he's the prize of the offseason. If we get him, there's a possibility we might be forced to overpay him. Not necessarily, Kiva. $11 million is very reasonable for Calvin Ridley. Now, I don't know if you can lock him up past this year because he's on a fifth-year option. You'd have to endear him to the city. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only way, because you're probably not going to go in and pay him $18 to $20 million a season, right? I mean, even Alshon, we made the mistake of paying him about $14 million. I'm not saying it's a layup, Kivo, in terms of the long term, but he's young, he's good, he can separate. We do know that. You know what I mean? Like, there's no doubt that Calvin Ridley, I like Devontae Smith. And Devontae Smith might be better in the long term. Let's be real, Calvin Ridley's the better player. What's up, Lone Wolf? He said, I'm curious on your thoughts on Brisker, the safety from Penn State. He's very Malcolm Jenkins-like to me. Lone Wolf, I talked about this earlier. I said that I was higher on Jordan Battle before I really ran the film. And I watched 2 games so far. And after those 2 games, I'm still really high on Jordan Battle, and I would love that pick for the Eagles. But Jaquan Brisker climbed a lot for me because what I saw was someone who was a lot better in coverage than I thought he was going to be. As a matter of fact, I went in and looked into it after I watched the film. He's the highest graded safety in coverage in this draft class. I agree with that stance. I agree with their stance of grading him that high. He was really good in coverage. He really was. He's physical. Far more physical than I knew. I mean, I don't watch Penn State like that, Lone Wolf. I'm an NC State guy. So I don't really watch, Penn State football like that. So I didn't really know what to expect. I just expected their defense to be bad. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I expected, Lone Wolf. I was like, yo, their defense is going to be bad. But, yeah. What do you think of the defensive end from Penn State, number 17? In terms of, like, the value, where I think he's going to get drafted, I would say he's probably a second-round pick, potentially third-round pick. Depends on it's a lot of time left, guys. I mean, it's hard to say. I'll say this. I think that I'm a little skeptical about Drake Jackson from USC, who's really high on people's boards right now. I probably like a Becta. How do you say his name, guys? I have no clue how to say his name, but I probably like him more than I like Drake Johnson, to be honest. But I also say that Jermaine Johnson, since we're just going to keep naming J's, I guess, apparently. Jermaine Johnson from Florida State, boy, there's a lot to like from the athletic, potential here. if you miss, like say we're picking 15, 16, 19, we don't get the value, like Clark, and those guys come off the board. They value edge rushers, and we're just in no man's land for edge rushers, and we trade back for a team wanting to come up here and get one of these quarterbacks, and we trade back into the early second. We could do worse than Jermaine Johnson at defensive end from Florida State. Man, that dude's got a lot of potential. I don't know if all the tools are there from a pass rushing perspective. I want to get guys like Jalen Williams and Caleb on that, because those guys know that type of play better than I do. I want to get their opinion on just how refined his pass rush moves are. But I'm telling you, on film, he pops. He's really good. Jermaine Johnson from Florida State is a guy I'd keep my eye on as well, guys. But yes, Bekti, I don't know how you say his name, Kivo, but he's good. I wouldn't hate that pick either, especially for trading back from 19 into the early second. I don't hate those picks at all. Here's the thing, though, and this is what scares me. Sometimes these guys that are edge rushers, who are clearly second-round values, get picked in the back half of the first round. So you got to be real careful with playing the value game. You know, you get what I mean, Kivo? Like, the value game can burn you because teams will get desperate and take dudes ahead of you. It's just kind of how they do you. You know what I mean? Especially if there's a big run on defensive ends in the top, 12 picks. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm trying to look at it rationally, Kivo. Like, you got offensive linemen that are going to get picked. One of these quarterbacks is going to make it into the top 12. I don't know who it is. I think it's going to be Pickett, unless they – here's the thing to watch, Kivo. I'll give everybody insights here. Wait until the Senior Bowl when they measure Kenny Pickett's hands. See if the narrative changes around Kenny Pickett real fast, because then you might have to look to Corral being your number one on the board for quarterbacks. Then you don't know. I think Kenny Pickett has a legit shot at being a top 12 pick. Who knows? Who knows, man? Tom Brady doesn't have the biggest hands. The knock on Joe Burrow was that he didn't have the biggest hands. Those dudes are pretty good. You know what I mean? But just watch the narrative. I'm telling you, watch the narrative after the Senior Bowl when they do the physical measurements on some of these guys. I got a feeling it's going to change, man. I really do. Solo Eagle said, Lloyd or Dean? Am I falling for Lloyd the more I watch? I think Devin Lloyd. I think Lloyd fits the scheme more from what I'm projecting our scheme will be, Solo. And that's the thing, is I really don't know, because we got a situation on our hands in terms of the coordinator right now. I think he'll fit the scheme that we currently were running last season. I definitely think we need that guy that can potentially be a Sam linebacker and can cover. He can, give you the ability to blitz. He can do all those things. And I think Lloyd's the guy that can do that for you. Nakobe Dean is just an athletic monster. Probably the better overall player. Maybe not the better player in terms of scheme, but here's the thing: is Nakobe Dean good enough that you make the scheme fit that dude? You figure out a way of using him. I don't know. That's the tough part. That's the challenging part. Because Nakobe Dean, I do think, is going to be really good in the league. What's up, Jeremiah? Nah, man, that's a false narrative. Anybody hear this Rager wanting a trade business? That's a false narrative. People confused what Jeff Mosher said, and he never said that Rager wanted a trade. He said that if you look at it from the prospects of, you sign a free agent, you draft a guy. So you sign a free agent that comes in here, that's going to be your number 2. Quez is now your number 3, and you draft a guy. So Rager would have to either beat Quez walking out as the 3rd, or he's a 4th or a 5th receiver on this football team as a first-round pick, which means he's not going to get a lot of action in games. Special teams contributor at that portion. So he was saying, not that Jalen Rager has asked for a trade, but might that spell doom in terms of trading him, because what's the point of keeping a first-round pick for just special teams production? He didn't say that was ever actually insinuated by Rager. People misunderstood that. Richie said, with the private jet, Paulie sent Tommy the private town car and whacked. Be careful. That's funny, man. That's funny, Richie. Eagle Slayer said, I'll gladly drive him to the airport. Kiva said, I see us only using 2 of those first-round picks. We'll flip one for 2023 just in case hers doesn't pan out. and we can be in one of those quarterbacks coming out next year, just build up the rest of the roster. I think it's very possible, Kivo, but I will preface this by saying one thing. It takes two to tango, right? You got to have guys willing to get up in 2022 and forsake 2023. So far, what I'm hearing is 2023's draft class is supposed to be a lot better in terms, not necessarily the D linemen and the edge rushers. I do think there are certain aspects of this 2022 draft that are really good, but in terms of the overall variability. Now, what you can say is, Steve, but to be fair, all that stuff was said before we found out who the underclassmen were that were declaring, and that might change the outlook on 2023, which could be completely true. So hard to say, Kivo, you know what I mean? Like, it takes two to tango. I get the same feeling you do that they'll either move up or move back, whether that's in 2022 or 2023. I doubt they'll take three in the first, but, you know, it's a possibility when you hold them. You know what I mean? NFC East B said, if Gannon goes, who comes in at defensive coordinator? You probably already did a stream on it. I don't know, NFC East B. That's really hard to say because I don't know who has relationships with the coach. I think we have to look into who are some of the guys that may have crossed paths with Nick Sirianni, may have crossed paths with other guys on this defensive staff. Here's the other side of things. Who's going to get poached? Who's going to get poached? If Gannon leaves, are guys going to get poached from our staff? That's the other side of things that no one's considering. I like Denard Wilson, our secondary coach, a lot. If Jonathan Gannon gets a head coaching job, does he poach Denard Wilson as his defensive coordinator? I don't know. Hard to say, right? You know what I mean? I don't know how many guys we're going to be replacing. I don't know the connections to the coaching staff. I don't know the connections that if these guys remain on staff defensively, what are their connections around the league? Do they have connections that might get into the ear of Nick Sirianni, then get into the ear of Howie Roseman to be hired? You know what I mean? Like, you kind of have to look at it from the way that these guys build reputations and connections throughout the league. And I don't know. Like, it's really hard to say. I think it's easier to project and talk about who Nick has in terms of like experience coaching with in terms of offensive guys. But defensive guys, a lot of those dudes are they haven't coached in a while. What's up, Jeremiah? How you doing, buddy? Say, hit that like button, man. Thank you, guys. Why do people keep playing prevent defense? We did the same against Washington and almost lost. If it wasn't for McLeod's insane INT. Let's see. How to define this, Natiro. When you play certain level guys, I think that, you know, we mistakenly believe that it's only Gannon that believes this. And truth be told, if you watch the playoffs this week, we see that a lot of the top tier defensive coordinators, Leslie Frazier's not some pushover as a D coordinator, right? A lot of these dudes believe in that, about keeping the ball in front of you, right? Making a team drive down the field and make a mistake when you're playing the better quarterbacks. The problem is that you need to rally to the football and you need to tackle. And the other problem is you got to come up with a play, whether it's an interception or the defense has got to get home and sack the quarterback. Go to Buffalo. You can argue that they did what they were supposed to do. And it wasn't Leslie Frazier's fault the players didn't execute. You didn't make tackles when you should have. You allowed Tyreek Hill to streak down the sideline on a basic dump off on an over route or drag route that put them in position to keep coming back in the football game, right? Kelsey, the missed tackles there. Like, you can make the argument that it wasn't the defense, it wasn't the scheme, it was the execution, right? The defensive line was all over Patrick Mahomes. Couldn't tackle him. They couldn't bring him down, right? I mean, you could make the argument that it did kind of work. They just couldn't make the play when they needed to make they couldn't finish it. Sounds very familiar to another team that we all watch and follow, right? To where there were opportunities, we just couldn't execute the play. We couldn't finish it. How many times did the Eagles knock a guy off their spot but couldn't finish the play and get a hit or get a sack? Happened a lot, man. What's up, Big Moose? Is Gannon real? Is the Gannon hype real about the Texans job? Yes, it is. I'm not saying he's going to get hired, Big Moose. I don't know, man. But when you get a second interview, you know what I'm saying? It means they're clearly really interested in you. Solo said, that's true. The price. Yeah, exactly. The price is what I can't determine. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always really difficult to determine the price of a guy. You can make projections based upon their age and their production, guys that were similar age and produced similar amounts, what they got paid. That's what they do when they do the AAVs on these contracts. But every now and then the market gets reset and you're wrong, and the dude gets way more than you thought. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to say. What's up, Eagle Slayer? He said, I would much rather have Mike Williams. I don't hate Mike Williams. I think that's a really good pick for the Eagles. I think he's probably not as good as some of the other guys that we've named, but he's a good contested catch guy. He's got strong hands. He's a true X receiver, right? I mean, he can definitely hurt you. I think Rodgers is done in Green Bay. Yeah, it didn't look good, did it, man? What's up, Brandon? He said, God, I hope Hurts can learn to read the field better next season. That's tough to say, man. That's like really, really tough to say. I would think that there's going to be some things that happen. So I'll give you guys some insight about playing quarterback and what I think is going to happen. All right. I told you guys towards the end of the season to be really careful making the assumption that when you see things come open, that Jalen Hurts has the autonomy to make that throw. Because what you're asking him to do is kind of come off. You're asking him to remove himself from playing on schedule, which was a big criticism we had of Hurts, right? You need to play on schedule. When he got in games last year, Max Brown called him out for it. I called him out for it that he didn't play on schedule. But that said, I think the next part of this is he proved he can play on schedule. I do think that was proven this year. He can play on schedule with your offense. Now, I will say he's out of rhythm with the offense. He's not in rhythm with the offense. That's the anticipation aspect of things. I would suspect that Sirianni and these guys are probably going to loosen the reins a little bit and tell him that they're going to give him cues of, like, he's not going to get the full green light, guys. But he'll get cues of if the safety does this, if a corner's leverage is this, then your read has to change. That's what I feel is going to happen. I can't predict if he's going to execute it, guys. I mean, there's no way to know that. I mean, no way of knowing that, guys. That's what it is. What's up, H Killer? He said Battle returned to Bama. Did he really? That helps out. If that's true, then that really helps out your 2023 class. Because I definitely think that he was going to be a second round, at worst, a third round pick in 2022. So if he came back, then he's clearly looking at it and saying, I could be a first round pick in 2023. I don't know, H Killer. Like I said, it's hard to predict when you got these underclassmen. Said, what's up, Solo? He said, really appreciate your knowledge, bro. You got great insights. Thanks, Gay City. No problem, guys. I do the best I can to try to stay in the middle and tell you guys when there's a projection coming, because projections can be wrong. You know what I mean? I definitely take Brisker, and Penn State's defense was low-key one of the best this past season. What about trading for Xavier Howard? Pretty expensive, Dante. He's got a really big contract. We'd have to see how much of that contract was in signing bonus, and because we don't have to pay that. Whatever's prorated, Miami's got to pay the prorated money. So if there's a lot of money on his contract that's prorated, then maybe the base salary is affordable, right? So even though he's due big money, the Eagles wouldn't have to pay him big money. You'd have to look into that. In terms of the player, he's a good player, Dante. He was a very good player. Yeah, Lone Wolf, exactly. It's who grew on me a lot, too. He said defensive end that's growing on me is FSU's Jermaine Johnson. He's what we expected from Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat had that devastating knee injury early, though. Remember, he was coming back from that in college, got into the pros, and there was a lot of concern that he would never make a second contract based upon that knee. Jermaine Johnson teamed up with Josh Sweat. Could be special. Blitz City said Jermaine Johnson is a stud. I wouldn't be mad at that pick. Me neither, man. I think he's good. I think that dude's going to be really good in the NFL. And mind you, UNC is my biggest rival. Florida State's up there. And I don't praise Florida State guys very often. That dude's film popped. I'm hoping 2 quarterbacks go in the top 12. Me too, Solo Eagle. I hope they do too. I hope they push this board down, because that would be the best thing for the Eagles, is for this board to keep getting shifted down to us. What's up, Eagle Slayer? He said Jason Kelce can play another 4 years if he really wanted to. I don't know if I don't want to project how long he could play, Eagle Slayer. Hard to say, you know what I mean? But I hope he comes back next year. I hope he comes back. I don't think he's cooked yet. I still think there's football life left in him. That's very possible, NFC East beast. I think you will see Willis start to climb up boards for teams needing a quarterback in the late first, i.e. Pittsburgh. There are a couple things. So Davis Mills is the kind of the guy to watch in terms of, like, he got picked last year, but the success the Texans had with Davis Mills, right? The guy that you got to watch for is Carson Strong. And I'm not projecting for the Eagles, guys. This is not an Eagles discussion. This is just generalized discussion. Carson Strong's got some things to clean up on his deep ball. I don't think it's fundamentally sound. But Carson Strong has better arm talent than people know. The problem with Carson Strong is he's got a knee issue, and it's got to be looked into. Sometimes these physicals come back and they knock a dude down the board big time, right? Is Carson Strong going to be Davis Mills, where he goes in like the third round or so, to where probably would have been a clear second round, even late first rounder, if that knee wasn't an issue? But because the knee's an issue, that kind of guy slides. Because I think you will see teams that, and I know guys are saying, like, yeah, but that doesn't help us in the first round. I get it. It helps us though in the third round, because we're picking like pretty far back there, guys, in terms of the third round. You know what I mean? Like we're pretty far back. So anything that can slide your board in the third round, you want it to happen. Do you think Jermaine Johnson can play in multiple fronts, or is he a 4-3 end? Unspoken words, I think that the easy thing to say is he's a 4-3 end. I don't know if he can play in multiple fronts, but I think he's athletic enough to stand up as a joker. I think you can absolutely stand him up as a joker and rush him. Lit City said Treylon Burks is a playmaker. Really liked his tape. His run after the catch shocked me, Lit City. He was far better at his hip. It's really because he's like 6'3", 220-ish. The bend he has in his hips, he's not an upright runner. He's none of the things you would fear from a guy that size, right? The reason a lot of scouts were kind of put off to JJ was that he was a bit of an upright runner. That was his problem, right? That's when they talked about he was stiff in the hips. He's an upright runner. I don't see that from Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks does not look like that on film. Treylon Burks sinks his hips well. He's not an upright runner. He's pretty good at releasing off the line of scrimmage. The dude gains yak anytime he catches the ball. Like, I was expecting Treylon Burks to be overhyped, to be honest. When everyone kept saying Treylon Burks, I was like, man, I'm not trying to hear this. And I watched this film and I was like, oh, I get why people are pretty big on this guy. Yeah, you're right. One thing for sure is that the draft is one thing that no one in history has ever been able to master. Ozzie possibly was the closest. The draft's hard, man. It's really easy to pick in the top 12, right? The teams still miss because they do stupid things, but it's far easier to pick guys that are top 12 talent than it is the rest of the draft. The Eagles are really good at the back end of the draft. We've definitely found the diamonds in the rough in the draft. We're not very good in the 20s. That's for sure. The guy with glasses had us drafting that Penn State defensive end, Abekti, in the first round. Yeah, of course he did. I don't want to get too deep into that, Bobby, but you know exactly what I'm saying. Lone Wolf said, I kind of want to draft DeMarvin Neal with our first round pick if he falls to us. Yeah, I mean, definitely an interior pass rusher. He's an interior pass rusher. He's pretty good. What's up, the gambling hippie? He said nothing to do with the Eagles, but I 100 think with offense getting so powerful, being helped by rule changes, that overtime rules have to change. Whoever wins the coin toss easily can win a game. I feel that, man. Yeah, I feel that. I feel what you're saying. That in games like we saw last night, I'm not saying you change that in regular season because you got to end the game at some point. In the playoffs, I agree. I agree that your opponent should get an opportunity. Eagle Slayer said I'm over Rager and Miles and obviously Gannon. Richie says sometimes it's just fate. Bucks defender falls down and Hurts throws to Smith, INT by a closing Bucks defender. Yesterday, Chiefs defender falls down and Allen could had lobbed the ball to Gabriel. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he could have almost, took the time and wrapped it up into a bow for a present and then threw it, right? Eagle Slayer said Lovie Smith could be an underrated candidate for the DC job. I always respected his style. Seth Joyner for defensive coordinator. You don't like Rocker? I don't know how to grade some of these guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, they asked Rocker to do a lot. That's the thing. Rocker was asked to do a whole lot here in terms of changing the schemes, changing the leverage of the players. Like, he was asked to do quite a bit. What's up, champion season? He said, how much pull does Rager think he has as a player? 31 catches, 16 games, and 290 yards. Nobody would trade for him. I don't know that nobody would trade for him, but nobody's trading you anything of value, right, champion? I mean, you might be able to say, look, your guy needs a change of scenery. Our guy needs a change of scenery. Let's swap. Let's swap troublesome players, right? That's probably the value you get right now in terms of a trade. What are your top linebacker prospects in the second or third round if we skip drafting in the first round? I'm glad you asked this, the Gambling Hippie, because believe it or not, when I actually got into looking at film a little bit, I actually really liked the talent level that is potentially in the second and third round. Now, mind you, dudes can climb the board, and I don't even know if everyone is declared for the draft. But I'm going to tell you right now, there is a run of guys in potentially the second and third round that makes sense to me. Brandon Smith from Penn State, I like him. For a 6'3", potentially 240-pound dude, he moves very well, man. Christian Harris from Alabama, I really like him a lot, and I think he'll be right around our second round value of where we're picking. The physical tools are all there for Christian Harris, guys. It's all there. Now, I don't know about his coverage. That's going to be the issue with Christian Harris is, can he cover in the NFL? I don't know that, guys. Channing Tindall from Georgia. I got a feeling he's going to slide into the end of the second round. But right now, some guys are saying third round. I got a feeling he's going to be right there in terms of the end of the second round with Christian Harris. He's fast. Dude's sneaky fast. And the dude can absolutely, he can cover. He goes sideline to sideline like anyone else here. He can play football, guys. Then you got the young man from Wisconsin, Chad Muma, another good player. He's very productive. He's, typical Big Ten linebacker. He's a good pass rusher, guys. He had 21 pressures on the year, which is really good. He can take the ball away. He's a good coverage guy. He reminds me of I can't think of the dude's name. The guy that played at he got picked early in the third round by the Bengals, and he's been pretty good on the Bengals. His name's slipping my mind, but that's who Muma reminds me of a little bit. Those guys are all, like, to me, I think deserve consideration. The Eagles should be higher on them than what we've heard so far. Now, mind you, we don't know who they're high on. We just know it's reported. You know what I mean? Cree said, I don't know if you addressed this, but do you see anyone in the pipeline that could be a future head coach? I'm not talking about the guys that they usually name. Let me think. I don't know there's any surprise names, Cree. I cannot think of any surprise names. Because the teams that are doing well, there's no one on Shanahan's staff, I don't think. I mean, Ken Norton, maybe. I could see Ken Norton maybe getting a wink and a look. What's his name? The dude that's on New England's defensive coordinator. I can't think of his name. Former player, guys. Crap. He interviewed with us last year. What the heck is his name? I don't know how much of the defense is him and how much of the defense of success that New England has had is just really and honestly an extension of Bill Belichick. But let me think real quick, guys. Let me find his name real fast because the defensive coordinators, I think, are the ones, the young defensive coordinators, the guys you have to watch out for that might get jobs. Was what happened with Brandon Staley being fast-tracked, teams copycat. They're copycats. So you got to really pay attention to that, right? Let me see. Bill Belichick's your head coach. Give me 1 second, guys. Gerard Mayo. The linebackers coach, Gerard Mayo. And then you got I don't know how they feel about Brian Belichick. He's obviously, nepotism. You got to wonder about that. He's part of their secondary coaching, but Gerard Mayo is the guy I was thinking of. Gerard Mayo and then Ken Norton are the two I think maybe you don't hear as much buzz from the national media, but are definitely better than people think. Offensively, I just don't know if we have that. I don't know if there's that guy around the league. I mean, everyone knows Kellen Moore. Everyone knows Mike Kafka. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anybody. I can't think of anybody. I can't think of anyone else, Cree, to be honest. That's a surprise. It would be a surprise, per se. Brian Dable is not a surprise, right? Like, those dudes aren't surprises. Eagle Slayer said Henry Ruggs went to jail and still finished with more receiving yards than Rager. That's sad. Richie said Gate City always pick heads on a coin toss unless it comes up tails. Once the Bills lost the coin toss, I was thinking they should have surprised with an onside kick. Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, you knew that they were going to drive the field on you anyways. Gates, why do you think Rodgers has tunnel vision and missed a wide open wide receiver in Lazard, whatever his name is, and opted to throw to a double teamed Adams? Guys make mistakes, Richie. You know how it is, man. Guys make mistakes. I mean, Brady missed some reads too. It's when you get to this level of guys, I mean, the defenses are good. The coordinators are good. If you make mistakes, they make you pay for it. You know what I mean? Nick Bolton had a good game last night for Kansas City. I'd like to have a linebacker like that in Philly. I hear you, Lit City. Is McLeod a free agent? Yeah, he is. Yeah. What's up, Caleb? How you doing, buddy? For you guys that don't know, we're trying to set something up tonight. It's going to be this week. We're going to try tonight, but we'll see if everyone's got availability. But Caleb and Jalen's going to come on and break down some film about our running game from the playoff game. We're going to look over the film and share what we saw with you guys. Howard just got his bag. The most concerning issue for Allen is, of course, his accuracy. He ranks dead last in completion percentage in 2019. Allen's second year. This from an article I read. He couldn't process very well, Mad Hatter. Allen was very bad at processing because, he played at Wyoming. Like, I don't think that he was really running a pro-style offense, to be quite honest. He was very raw. He had some issues with his throwing motion. He was an overstrider. He had some things he had to shore up, but he got there, Lit City said, yeah, bro, I'm a Miami fan. Got to keep it 100. Yeah. Hurricanes, got you. He has nothing to prove. His presence and leadership will be missed for sure. I think I missed the context there, Eagle Slayer. I missed the context with what we were talking about on that one. Allen needs to see it happen before starting his throwing motion. That lack of rhythm is almost always present, and that's what leads to unsightly misses. Yeah, it's the same issue that Jalen's having. He doesn't throw the ball. He didn't throw the ball with anticipation. Have you ever seen the Nevada quarterback Nate Cox play? If so, what are your thoughts on a 6'9" quarterback being successful in the NFL? Cree, I don't think height has anything to do with it per se, but the exchange from the center would be comical. You know what I mean? For a 6'9" guy to try to, even a dude that's like 6'4", that's a big difference there. Hard to say. I don't know his game, Cree. I don't know his game, to be honest. Richie said, would Kelsey move to left guard and mentor Dickerson at center, or is that a pipe dream, and a direct to film movies? Look, I don't think that'll happen. Number one, Dickerson, I would just keep him at left guard. I think, honestly, you have potentially the best left side in the NFL with Dickerson and with Mulata. The decision you have to make here is who's your center? Is it Isaac Seumalo going forward? Are you going to put Dickerson there, Landon Dickerson? I'm sorry. Not Landon Dickerson. My bad, Richie. Jack Driscoll. Let me get to the right person. Nate Herbig, what are you doing? Are you drafting a guy? What's the solution, right? Because Isaac Seumalo was naturally a center in college. I think Isaac Seumalo gives you the athleticism you're seeking at the center position, right? He's been injured. He's been injured a lot. That's your fear, right? I mean, like, what good does it do you to have a freaking center that's never on the field? That's my concern with Seumalo. He's got to be healthy. Outside of 2019, he has not stayed on the field, and that's a concern, right? Missed a lot of games this year. Missed some games in 2020. It's a concern with Seumalo. We got to figure something out there. Trayvon Walker, defensive end from Georgia, my bad. Younger cousin is someone I hope the Eagles look at. I see him rising up the boards, especially after the combine. Yeah, I mean, he's already pretty much – I think he's already pretty well-known solo. I definitely think he's pretty well-known, and he's a guy that's in that second-round valuation area. But look, some of these dudes might climb into the first round. I'm not going to lie to you, Solo. I mean, there were guys last year that were – everyone said, like, no way this dude's going before, the 50th pick in the draft, and they end up being, like, in the back end of the first round. Pass rushers get overdrafted just like quarterbacks. You know what I mean? So it is possible. That Bama receiver could fall in our lap in the later round. You're talking about Pickens? Sorry, Pickens is Georgia. Alabama would be starts with an M. It starts with an M. I know you're talking the one that toward the ACL or whatever. Mechie, I think. I think it's his name, right? What's up, Pepper? Man, as an Eagle fan, after I saw what Allen and Mahomes did last night, all I got to say is Hurts has to make drastic improvements to be able to have a chance against these teams. No, you're not lying, Pepper. But to be fair, Pepper, I think the entire team has to get better. Like, our talent level is not equivalent to what you see in Kansas City or Buffalo. That's an excellent question, Carlos. Do you think that was Brady's retirement party yesterday? Possibly. Possibly. Very, very possibly. Richie said, get to know Steve's favorite collegiate team, Wolfpack. Why did NC State go with that name? If you know, I have no clue. Man. I just found it funny that Zach Galifianakis used it inside of The Hangover. Zach Galifianakis was a communication major at NC State. I always found that hilarious, but I have no clue why they chose it, man. Eagle Slayer said, in my eyes, these games over the weekend justified we didn't belong in the playoffs, but there is room for improvement. I mean, look, when they expanded the playoffs, I would say we belonged, but I would say that we're not in the same talent tier as the top 4 or 5, teams inside the playoffs. There's a clear distinction between that top, I'd say 5 or 6 teams and everybody else. Brady has to pay back $16 million if he retires. Not normally, Mad Hatter. You normally do not have to pay back money when you retire. I'd have to see exactly the contract structure and see why he would have to pay back that money. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard anything like that, but I haven't really looked into it, to be fair. Yeah, Jarrett Mayo is who I was trying to get to. Gerard Mayo, I should say. Steven Nelson was kind of a disappointment. I agree, Eagle Slayer, and I think people are pumping him up. And I think Steven Nelson's respectable. I don't hate re-signing Steven Nelson and drafting a guy, but this whole idea that we would be doomed without Steven Nelson, I don't buy it. Yes, he formed one of the better secondaries we've had in a while. No doubt about it. Right? But he was the weakest link. He was by far the weakest link out there. He played a lot better when they went to a man coverage. He was really bad in zone. Think Ken Norton got fired? I'd still give him consideration. I don't know if he got fired. I don't know. I don't really follow Ken Norton like that, to be honest. Saison, let me take a look real quick. But all right, Ken Norton Jr. Oh yeah, you're right. They fired him in Seattle. You know what? It is what it is. I think Ken Norton's better than they're giving him credit for. What's up, Bobby? He said Patrick Graham, Giants defensive coordinator. He could be a sleeper for head coach. You mean for the Giants? I went Patrick Graham as a defensive coordinator in Philly. You guys know I've been pretty high on Patrick Graham. but the Giants didn't. So far, they've retained his contract. So we'll have to see how that works out. I mean, if they hire a head coach and it's not Patrick Graham, and then that head coach decides to go in a different direction at defensive coordinator, I love Patrick Graham's scheme. I love his scheme. It's aggressive, and he still plays too high. I would love to have Patrick Graham here. Lone Wolf said he thinks D'Amico Ryans might get a look. Possibly. Can you picture Hurts beating Mahomes in the Super Bowl ever in his career? I mean, hard to say, man. It's not like one guy, you know what I'm saying, like determines that dumpster diver. That's really difficult to say. Like, really difficult to say right now because let's be real, when the offensive line was not right for Mahomes last year and he had to match up against that Tampa Bay, blitzing scheme from Bowles, it went ugly. He got ugly. So I mean, it's hard to say, man. Like, I don't know. I think that Hurts has a lot to prove to even be in that conversation. Or Josh Allen. Like I said, man, there's a lot to prove here. Hard to say. There's no way of definitively saying yes or no. You know what I mean? Stupid question. Would you trade for CMC instead of extending Miles, or if the price is right, or would you think it? Or what do you think it would cost? You're going to have to pay first round picks for CMC. No, he's too injury prone for my liking. You're just really trading out one injury prone guy who's certainly more talented than Miles Sanders, but I think you still have the same problem on your hands trying to keep him healthy. I was talking about Kelsey, but I think we're in good hands with Dickerson. If you draft Linderbaum, your offensive line will be set for 10 years. Andrew said, leave the left side of Philly's offensive line alone. Yeah, Mechie. Eagle Slayer said he thinks that Nelson's just too small. That is very possible, Eagle Slayer. But I also think it has to do with his foot speed, because when you put him up on the line of scrimmage, not on the offensive line, but on the line of scrimmage, and you got him up there playing in man coverage, and you got safety top over the top, he can get physical and disrupt routes, and he's a fighter. I love Steven Nelson's fighting spirit, but he does lack foot speed, and you have to have safety help over top of him. So even if you're in single high, you got to shade that coverage towards him a little bit. I feel like we need two safeties with range to play Gannon's defense. I agree, Brandon. I think it's a good take. Think Zach is ready to play opposite of Slay? I don't, Kevin. Not yet. Not yet, Kevin. I'm not saying that to just completely discount McPherson and write him off. Like, guys have an off season for a reason to get better, right? You got to give the guy an opportunity. But I don't know that I would approach it this off season that way. Look, if Zach McPherson beats a dude out, then you're happy about that, right? Like, that's not a bad thing per se, right? Nick Foles beat Brady in the Super Bowl, so it's possible. What's up, LJ? How you doing, bro? Caleb said, "You know how I feel about Linderbaum." Shaking my head. Yeah, Caleb, I know. I'll have to get you some film and have you break down film on Linderbaum and do like a draft profile on him. We'll have to set that up for a live stream, Caleb. Rams versus Chiefs Super Bowl. Hope Rams win. What I think about Louis Cine? You're talking about the young man from Georgia, right? What I remember about what I wrote down in terms of like how he played, he was a really good tackler and he's very physical. He plays very, very physically around the line of scrimmage. A lot of playing time. He's been playing since a freshman. He's very sound in coverage. I don't think that he stood out the same way that Brisker did in coverage, but he was no slouch in coverage. He was pretty good. I think in terms of coverage, the guys that stood out to me were Brisker, Brisker, Daxton Hill, who I don't know if he's going to be a slot corner or a safety, and then Cine. Those three guys stood out in coverage to me. In terms of like under the radar guys, I'll say that under the radar guys were Cantalone from Arkansas if you want a strong safety, or Hawkins from Michigan if you want just a purely physical big dude. Those two guys did. And I said that the guy I would be careful of is Kirby Joseph from Illinois. I think that's a buyer beware situation with Kirby Joseph. And then I haven't watched Smoke Monday's film yet, guys. I've watched him in games, but I haven't watched his actual film. We need two safeties, not confident in moving forward with McLeod and Harris again. What's up, Big Moose? How you doing, buddy? I forgot to say that. If Jimmy G wins the Super Bowl, love to fly on the walls. Love to be a fly on the wall where Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick are talking. Brady's team Super Bowls last, and if that happens, Jimmy G's team is Super Bowl. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Two quarterbacks that were in the organization, left the organization, and won Super Bowls. What's up, Chris R? Yes. We talked about Jermaine Johnson earlier. I said that in terms of if you can't get Karlaftis or these guys in the first round, if the value doesn't line up, I said that there are pass rushers in the second round in this draft, and the guy I named in particular is Jermaine Johnson. And I wouldn't be shocked if Jermaine Johnson doesn't end up going in the back half of the first round because the athletic profile of that guy is there. I said I wanted to get Caleb and Jalen some film to look at Jermaine Johnson because those are line guys. They might be able to give us a better perspective in terms of the complete toolbox as a pass rusher. How many moves does the guy have? How good is he at doing it? All that kind of stuff. But he popped on film to me, Chris. I thought he was really good. Treylon Burks, Nakobe Dean, Lloyd, Karlaftis, Ojabo are my favorites. Rebuilding a team takes time, and we need to do it correctly with filling in holes. I agree, Pepper. I don't hate any of those players you named. They're all pretty good football players. That's what I was saying earlier, LJ. I said that game last night was one of the best I've ever watched. Me too. Even Kim was into it, Jerry. Like even Kim was into it. She was like, "Dude, this is like a really good game, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is like definitely one of the best games I've ever watched." Period. Like that's a game I would have loved to see the overtime rules changed in, because I would have loved to watch the continuation of that game. Glizzy said, "Whatever happened to Tay Gallen? Haven't seen him on the field much at all after the trade." He played a little bit in week 18, but then he didn't look very good. I mean, the issue with Tay Gallen, Glizzy, is that physically he's got everything you look for in terms of like playing the position, right? He's 6'1". He's got the frame, you know. The issue is that he does not have a ton of playing experience. He came from a community college to UCF. Only played 1 year at UCF, then opted out of the 2020 season. So you're judging his play at UCF, which is I'm not saying UCF is bad. I mean, they put some dudes in the league, but UCF is not the same thing as watching an ACC or an SEC or a Big Ten school, right? It's not the same level of competition. And then on top of that, he only played 1 year, came in from a community college and opted out. Like it's complex. You know, I mean, I just didn't know. I didn't know where he was in terms of understanding coverage concepts and what his leverage is supposed to be inside the coverage. I still don't know that about him, right? I mean, it's still a bit of a mystery there. I'm also happy for Stafford. Big difference between the Lions team and the Rams. Rams were loaded before they got Stafford because they knew that teams win championships. You know, Pepper, it was kind of crazy because I did look over Stafford's numbers. And like Stafford's such a hard person to judge because, like, all right, you go back to 2009, right? He goes 201 for 377, right? A 53.3% completion rate, 2,267 yards, 13 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, and a 37.1 QBR. Stafford was horrible his rookie year. He got injured in 2010 and really didn't play. 2011, he comes back. So second year in the league, second year playing, third year in the league. 421 is 663, 63.5% completion, 5,000 yards. Already eclipsed 5,000 yards that fast. 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a 60.5, I want to say, QBR, and a 97.2 passer rating. That's a heck of a turnaround, man. Stafford's definitely one of these people that's really difficult to get a read on as a quarterback. And in moments, he shows it, man, that he's a high caliber dude in moments. Jerry said, Gabe's my nephew, guys. Gabe was going crazy at the end. Yeah, I was too. I was up yelling. I had to stop yelling because I was like, oh, crap, people are probably sleeping in his house. Dallas Goedert's dead cap money in the 2022-23 season is $21 million. Any reason why so much for a position player? Well, I mean, you know, your skill position players are normally the ones that have that kind of money. If it's a ton of dead money, Richie, it means that he's got the signing bonus must have been pretty big. He must have gotten a pretty good amount of that money into a signing bonus. So generally speaking, when they do that, Richie, they give the big signing bonuses because it gives you the player gets the money that they want, but it gives you the flexibility in the cap over years, right? To kind of leverage that because you can prorate a signing bonus, so you can spread out that financial hit over X amount of years. Gabriel Davis went to UCF too. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that UCF doesn't put guys in the league, but I'm saying there's only 1 year. UCF doesn't play the greatest, competition in the world. And then he opted out following that year, transferring him from a community college. It's, Gabriel Davis is still a little easier to assess because you didn't have those same circumstances, Richie. Oscar said Hurts has been training with Dak's quarterback coach. Should he switch to Josh Allen's quarterback coach? I think is Dalton's brother. His accuracy has improved significantly. That's really, that's got to come from the conversation. So, Oscar, what I'll say is that comes from the conversation between Steichen, Sirianni, and then Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson being the quarterback coach will probably they'll give him a grade on when he's got to get better at. I'm going to tell you, my hunch is they're going to say the biggest area of improvement that has to come from you is that you've got to be better in terms of reading things faster and playing in rhythm with the offense. You got to anticipate more. You got to throw dudes open, not wait for them to break open. Maybe they send him to Palmer. Maybe that's where he goes. He goes to Palmer out in California to work that out. Hard to say. I mean, he worked with Quincy Avery last year, so I'm not really sure what he does there, Oscar. It's hard to say. DK, if it's possible, but I'd love to see OBJ and Midnight Green. We used to have people that kept saying OBJ, and I always say no. But I'll be honest with you, if OBJ doesn't disrupt the locker room, I think he's the exact type of guy you need. He's going to win. He's got solid hands. He's not a big dude per se, but he separates. He wins at the top of the route stem, and he can catch the football. I don't know that OBJ is the same explosive playmaker he once was. It's hard to judge that from the Rams, but you got other dudes that can play that role. You just need someone to be consistent, and I think he could give you that. What's the price, though? Let's see. That's my thing is what's the price? We can give him the opportunity. He'll be a clear-cut 1 or 2 for us. But, I don't know that I don't know what the cost is going to be there. No clue. You know what I mean? Could be really affordable or could be completely ridiculous. You know what I mean? You said safeties Lewis, Crine, and Marcus Williams are new starting safeties. I wish. Jordan Palmer. No, I knew who you meant, Oscar. It's no big deal. I got you, buddy. I knew exactly who you meant. Pepper said, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Hurts has connections with Peyton Manning, would want him to really pick his brain this offseason. Yeah, apparently they're friends, Pepper. I didn't realize that either, but apparently they're really good friends. Not a bad person to make friends with, right? Peyton Manning. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, Brian Johnson should have a say in this. It's ultimately Jalen's, it's Jalen's decision, but I'm pretty sure Brian Johnson, being a family friend, he'll probably give him guidance here. Philly Cruz said we need a big body. Richie said, with the NFL rules, how much can Nick Sirianni be in direct contact with Hurts during the offseason? Can Hurts go to the NovaCare complex and work on drills with wide receivers with Eagle staff there? No. So not with Eagle staff there. They're the collective bargaining agreement. You got to look at the CBA. The CBA won't allow that because they're going to see that as on-field time, and that's heavily regulated. So you can't really do that kind of stuff anymore. Now, can they go work out at Jalen's house? Can they go to a private field? They can do all that stuff together. The league can't stop you from doing that. I don't know what the rules are about them being in the NovaCare without coaches. That I don't know. That's a great question, Richie. But yeah. Right on cue, Burgang114, who I know was a huge OBJ guy. Said, I hope we get the edge rusher from LA. And then he was a beast last year. I don't know how to say his name, man. I have no clue how to say his name. Burgang. I have no clue. But Burgang, I'm surprised you didn't come in because I think you got a legitimate shot this year. I think OBJ will be in play for the Eagles. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I definitely think it's in play. All right, guys, an hour and 45 minutes. I'm about to jump off of here, guys, because I got to be back on here potentially tonight with Caleb and Jalen if they have time. If not, then I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9:05, and then I'll get in touch with Jalen and Caleb, and we'll definitely get some things together. But appreciate you guys. Hang on. I see somebody coming in that hasn't had an opportunity to comment yet. What's up, Nasty Left Hook? He said, man, we got to get Burks if he falls to 19. Any chance you think he falls in the second? Highly doubt he falls in the second, but he might fall to 19. Richie said, Pepper, your photo looks like Joey Shakes is going to get the bat from Philly 500 Untouchables movie. That's funny, guys. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you guys later, man. Hour and 46 minutes. I got to do some work on film, guys. Got to get some work done in terms of the scouting here. All right, y'all. Appreciate you.